Sumerians, the first civilization that changed the world. Somewhere in the heart of ancient Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, one of the most astonishing and at the same time least understood civilizations in human history was born, the Sumerian civilization. They were the first people to build cities, develop writing, and create complex social structures. Their achievements forever changed the course of history and laid the foundation for all future civilizations. The Sumerians appeared around 4,500 BCE in the southern part of Mesopotamia in what is now southern Iraq. Over the course of several centuries, they turned the fertile lands of the river valleys into the center of human progress. They founded great cities, Uruk, Ur, Lagash, Nippur, Eridu, each of which was an independent city-state with its own laws, army, gods, and rulers. The architecture of the Sumerians was monumental. They were the first to build ziggurats, stepped pyramids crowned with temples. These structures symbolize the connection between heaven and earth, between gods and people. The most famous is the ziggurat of Ur, parts of which still survive today. But the Sumerians were not only builders. They were the first in history to develop a system of writing, Cuneiform. Their reed styluses left wedge-shaped marks on clay tablets. Initially, writing was used to record harvests, taxes, and trade deals, but soon it became a tool for recording laws, history, and religious texts. One of the greatest literary works of the Sumerians is the famous Epic of Gilgamesh, telling the story of the ruler of Uruk and his search for immortality. This epic is considered the oldest known work of literature, reflecting human fears, desires, and philosophical thoughts. The Sumerian economy was based on agriculture, irrigation, and trade. They learned to build canals to direct the waters of the Tigris and Euphrates onto their fields. This allowed them to grow barley, wheat, dates, flax, and other crops. Their trade routes extended far beyond Mesopotamia. Sumerian goods have been found in India, Persia, and Egypt. Sumerian society was highly organized. At the top were the kings and priests who held enormous power. Below them were craftsmen, merchants, and scribes, while the foundation of society was made up of farmers and slaves. Priests played a special role. They were seen as intermediaries between people and the gods, and they controlled the temples and the city economy. The Sumerian pantheon included hundreds of gods. Each city had its own patron deity. For example, Lugal was the patron god of Uruk, Enki was the god of wisdom and water, and Inanna was the goddess of love and war. Religious ceremonies, sacrifices, and festivals permeated all aspects of Sumerian life. However, despite all their achievements, the Sumerian civilization began to decline at the end of the 3rd millennium BCE. The reasons for this decline are still debated by historians and archaeologists. One of the possible reasons was environmental degradation. Centuries of irrigation caused the soil to become salty, reducing its fertility. Crop yields fell, famine and migrations began. Another factor was political conflicts. Sumerian cities constantly fought with each other over resources and power. These endless wars exhausted resources and weakened the state system. External threats also played an important role. In particular, the conquests of the Akkadians under King Sargon the Great, who in the 24th century BCE created the world's first empire, including the Sumerian cities. By the end of the 22nd century BCE, Sumerian culture was completely absorbed by other peoples. However, their legacy did not disappear. The writing system, architecture, legal and cultural traditions of the Sumerians became the foundation for later Mesopotamian civilizations, the Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians. Today, archaeologists continue to excavate Sumerian cities, discovering tablets, statues, and household items that give us a unique insight into the life of the world's first civilization. The story of the Sumerians is a story of human genius and tragedy, how from nothing people managed to build a whole world, but also how fragile that world turned out to be. The exact cause of their fall is still unclear. Was it mismanagement, natural disasters, military invasions, or a combination of all these factors? We may never know. But the lesson of the Sumerians remains relevant even today. Even the greatest civilizations can disappear, leaving behind only ruins and clay tablets. But the Sumerians were not only builders, traders, and warriors. They were also engineers, thinkers, and artists. Their civilization became a cradle of ideas and discoveries that shaped the future of all humanity. They invented legal systems, created the concept of property and contracts, and developed bureaucratic structures. The rulers of Sumer issued codes of laws, regulated taxes, and managed justice. These were the first attempts to organize society under written rules, which later influenced the laws of Babylon and even Rome. In Sumerian society, women had certain rights. They could own land, participate in trade, and even serve as priestesses in temples. This makes Sumer one of the first societies where elements of social mobility can be traced. The Sumerians left behind thousands of cuneiform tablets, from accounting records to epic poems. These clay documents, many of which are still being deciphered, contain information about religious rituals, economic life, history, and politics. They are the voice of a civilization long gone. One of the Sumerians' greatest achievements was their engineering. To protect themselves from floods and ensure fertile land, they built dams, canals, and complex irrigation systems. These engineering solutions allowed the Sumerians to cultivate crops in the arid climate of Mesopotamia. Their knowledge in mathematics and astronomy was also impressive. They used a sexagesimal system, base 60, understood the movements of celestial bodies, and calculated solar and lunar calendars. Their scientific knowledge was passed down to later civilizations and became the foundation for future discoveries. But the civilization of the Sumerians was fragile. Periods of drought, political conflicts, and external threats weakened their cities and society. The Sumerians tried to preserve their culture and knowledge, but over time, they dissolved among other peoples of Mesopotamia. Today, archaeological discoveries, figurines of gods, tablets with laws and economic records, the remains of ziggurats, remind us of the greatness of Sumerian civilization. Their story is not only about the past, but also a warning about how easily the fruits of human labor can be lost. Every new excavation, every deciphered tablet brings us closer to understanding this mysterious and powerful culture. The Sumerians are gone, but their traces will forever remain in the history of humanity. Their cities, like Uruk, Ur, Lagash, and Eridu, once stood proud and strong, filled with life, knowledge, and faith. Now they lie in ruins under layers of sand, but their legacy lives on in our language, science, architecture, and law. The fall of the Sumerians is a reminder of the fragility of civilization. No matter how advanced or powerful a society becomes, it is always vulnerable to natural forces, internal conflicts, and human mistakes. The world's first civilization gave us the building blocks of modern life: writing, laws, trade, and city life. But it also gave us a timeless lesson that nothing lasts forever, and that even the mightiest cultures can vanish, leaving only fragments for future generations to find and wonder about. And so, the mystery of the Sumerians' disappearance still echoes across the centuries. What exactly led to the fall of the world's first great civilization? The answer remains hidden beneath the sands of ancient Mesopotamia, waiting for us to uncover.